Mr. Drew, would you like to tell us about the Bermite cleanup?
That's a little hard to see, but that's a map of the facility, and if you can kind of see, there's also a dotted line that goes off to the left of that, to the far left of the photograph there. That is the plume of the, as far-reaching as the perchlorate plume goes, and all the way to the left, to the west, is the wells that are contaminated over in that area. Bermite's progressing along. We had our multi-jurisdictional. What's that? Do I have one here? Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, over here to the west. This is the bus transfer station over here, and there's the plumes extended that far, which is, this is basically Big Bean and Magic Mountain Parkway. I think there we go. Well, Al, I hate to tell you this, but it's upside down. Anyway, the property's divided up into operational units, as most each of you probably already know, and let's see here, OU1 and OU5. This is OU5. So actually, Soledad Canyon Road's down here at the bottom. This is pointing south. This upside down OU5. All this area is pretty much completely cleaned up. They've got a few areas down here in the train station that they're still working on. They're proceeding right now in OU2, which is up in this area. This is Circle J's just past here. They've been working up in here. They've moved thousands of cubic yards of dirt. The weather has been very favorable to them for the last 2 years. We've only had, what, 2 or 3 days of rain. So right now the treatment, which, you know, they add the glycerin and the sugars to the soil so that the microbes eat up all the perchlorate. And with the hot weather and stuff, their turnaround is 2 to 3 weeks, to where they put the stuff in the treatment pad until when it's cleaned up, and then they're putting it back where they get it from. They're eventually going, we're still working on, they're at OU2, like I said, over in this area, and they're doing 3, 4, 5, and 6. 3 and 6. 4 is pretty much all out here. There's only a couple of spots that are still contaminated. In OU4 also is the what they call the hula bowls, which are the landfills, and they're supposed to be going through these landfills and screening them and pulling out all the junk and crap that's in there. They still think there could be some unexploded ordnances in there, but they're not sure. So they'll have experts on that. This is supposed to be completed within a couple of months. They're having some problems with permitting from the fish and wildlife agencies, and so they're working on trying to pull some strings to get some permits in there to get that done. They're hoping to have it done by the end of September or October. They're talking about having the soils cleaned up, optimistically cleaned up by the end of November. But we'll wait and see, because like I've told everybody, for the last 4 or 5 years, they always say 3 to 5 years, so we're still hanging in there with 3 to 5 years, but hopefully it's going to be real soon. Jose Diaz from the Department of Toxic Substance Control said that they are starting to put a plan together for operations and maintenance for when this project does get to its finality. DTSC will be there for a long time, especially with the water, but they will monitor the whole site for several years to come. They do 5-year plans. Every 5 years they come up with have to have a new plan and a new study, so they'll be here for several years, especially with the water and stuff. They're talking that at least 85% of the soils, like I said, are clean. The VOCs, the volatile organic compounds that they remove by vacuum, are approximately 85%, but right now it takes longer because there's not as much volume in the soils, and they're still trying to pull out the rest of it, so the remaining 15% will take longer than the other 85% took to get done. As far as the groundwater, they're pumping now. The treatment facility there on Salt Canyon Road is running at approximately 250 gallons a minute. They're pulling groundwater off of the property. Hopefully they will stop this plume and contain the groundwater on the property. 250 gallons, they're planning to push it up to 400 gallons real soon. They're using some of that water on the property and in the process of the soil cleanup. The other part of the water is being discharged into the river. Hopefully the water companies and old CLWA and all this will get a plan with the city for reclaimed water, because the water they're dumping into the river right now is potable water. You could drink it, and it's within parameters to be able to be served on your water glass. What they're dumping it into the river, hopefully they'll come up with a plan that they can start recycling some of it, run it up to the purple pipes that aren't connected in all the medians and like Soledad and all that, and irrigate all the medians. But that's still in the future. They're still in that process. See what other good things we got. Oh, here we go. This is the train station, Metrolink train station here. These, let's see, these are the soil vapor, where they still have soil vapor extractions. All the green areas here, the green areas are all complete. This is where they've completed all these areas. The blue areas are in the process, and they designated like this is 85% complete. They're shooting for the end of the year. Soil vapor extraction might take a little bit longer, but the soils for the perchlorate cleanup will also be done hopefully at the end of the year, optimistically. Anyway, like I say, this is the property. This is OU5. OU5, the soils are all done. There's OU4 I was telling you about. This is where all the landfills are at, and they're going to screen all those, and it should only take 2 or 3 months to get those screened out. They're going to take whatever they find, the trash and stuff, they're going to take it off to the other landfills and then refill all the ravines and things. This area basically right in here, that's what they call Burn Valley. Burn Valley is where they used to shoot rockets from one building to the other building. There used to be depleted uranium there. They're almost done with the soil vapor extraction in that area, but that area will never be released to residential. It will just be open space, or it could be recreational fields. It could be some light industry in that area, but you can never put like a home or a school or anything like that in that area. But as they state, there's only about 150 acres that were actually contaminated out of the 996. And so the other day I was at the Valley Industrial Association luncheon that the guys from Bermite talked, and they answered a lot of questions from the audience, and a lot of the Valley Industrial Association, there was a lot of real estate questions. So these people the real estate is starting to get excited about what's going on up here on Bermite. One of the questions they asked was, if we put in a subterranean parking, how far down can we go, and is it going to be dangerous? And they told them, for one, perchlorate's not dangerous unless you ingest it. I mean, so you've got to drink it or eat it out of the dirt, but it doesn't create a dust or anything like that. It's all water soluble. Most all the perchlorates will be cleaned up. They're going down, they're grading it according to the Portobello plan, which was the old real estate plan that was on the area, the development plan. It's the only one they have. Of course, that's since expired a couple of years ago, but that's still what they're using. So average, they're going down 10 feet almost all over the whole property. They've gone down 30 feet in some areas to clean up. Their answer about the parking structure was that even if they went into some area, the perchlorate's not going to really hurt anybody. The VOCs are going to hurt people more than the perchlorate is, because the VOCs are carcinogenic. But the VOCs are working diligently to get those done too. So anyway, then we had people from water companies, Matt Stone and Jim Lesserman, from the Santa Clarita Valley Water Company, or whatever it's called now, which is CLWA, Newhall County Water District, Valencia Water, and the Santa Clarita Water Division, all combined into one company now. We all have one company. And they still have not been able to get Valencia Well 201, which is by the bank building next to City Hall. They haven't been able to get that online yet. They've been pumping water out of it. They got fined thousands of dollars. They were pumping the water into the river and trying to get that going, and they didn't have the proper permits, and they were the solids that was in the water that was going into the thing. They got fined like $180,000, I believe it was, something of that nature. That wasn't made public right away. It has been lately, but I'm sure a lot of people don't even know about that yet. But it was $180,000 extra that they were fined. They're still having to pump that well. They want to treat the well at that site, but they're only going to treat it for perchlorate. They're still working. VOCs have been showing up in Santa Clarita water, especially coming out of Saugus 1 and 2, which are by Saugus Cafe and on Magic Mountain Parkway by the river. Those two wells, they pump and treat for chlorate by Lowe's on Bouquet Canyon. They want to start a treatment for VOCs because they're only getting a 93% success rate in treating for everything. They do blend the water, ratio 6-to-1, 6 state water to 1 groundwater before it goes into the water system. But the VOCs are showing up intermittently, and there's two areas that they say they're coming from. One's Bermite, the other one's in Saugus Industrial Center, which is across from the IHOP on Bouquet Canyon, just across the railroad tracks there was the Saugus Industrial. It's the old Kaiser Century vinyl production plant. And anyway, so those two entities are pointing a finger at each other who's going to pay for the cleanup of the VOCs, and they still haven't got a resolve. The water companies asked for a grant to get started trying to perform a cleanup, and was denied the grant because their contamination figures weren't high enough. But they're high enough that they have to treat it, but they're not high enough to get a grant for it. So they're still looking for money to pay for the cleanup, and the two entities are pointing fingers at each other. So it's probably going to end up in litigation, of course. Other than that, like I say, the soils they're looking to clean up right away. Oh, I did ask one question. Well, I asked the city planner, James Chow. I asked him, has the city put any kind of effort or any actions into trying to start planning for Via Princesa, which is one of the major roads that's planned for on the city planning documents to go across the property. Via Princesa will connect from Rainbow Glen all the way over to Wiley Canyon once Bermite is cleaned up. And I asked him if it's going to take 3 to 5 years for planning, permitting, and design on these roads. Have you guys even started that? And of course, he said no, because we don't have a developer to pay for it yet. So the city's kind of dragging their feet on that. I mean, they've already got the Dockweiler plan for that road, and they said it was going to take 3 to 5. So I said, well, why can't you get this started? And of course, then they said, because we don't have a developer yet. But after this meeting with the Valley Industry Association, it sounds like there's some real estate people that are very excited. I've been talking to one gentleman who represents a developer that he was asking me questions about it. So I think his group is going to be very interested in it up there, and also Larry Rasmussen, the developer that developed Centerpoint Industrial. He's been to several of the meetings, and I know he's been looking at the property also. So as soon as it's declared cleaned up, DTS, the people from Whitaker will start pulling once they feel it's cleaned up, they'll start pulling some of the machinery and things off of the site and get it ready to turn over. But they have to wait to be certified by Department of Toxic Substance Control when they give them all the reports. And then that could take 6 months to a year for the certification. But hopefully it'll be certified clean, and then they can, some developers can come in, buy their stake in it, and then develop it, or pay the city some money, and then they put the roads in. But the city didn't want to be proactive because they didn't have the money to do that right now. They've got more money to give to Old Town Newhall, but not to Via Princessa. I'm sorry, that was a little editorial comment. Anyway, like I say, the Citizens Advisory Group, the CAG, our next meeting will be November 7th. It's the first Wednesday in November. We meet at the Santa Clarita Methodist Church, United Methodist Church on Bouquet Canyon, across from the old El Presidente Mexican restaurant. We meet there at 7 o'clock in the evening, and we hold usually about a 2-hour meeting. We go through all the details of what's going on the property. So our next meeting is November 7th, and that's about all I got to go over. Let's see. Whoops. Oh, we had an extra one. That's all right. Just more of the same. Anyway, that's all I got to say. Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Oh, they had some, there's talking there, they had over 85% of the soils complete, over 85% of VOCs, the soil vapor extraction. They're getting ready to shut down some of the soil vapor extraction units and move them to a couple of other areas that they haven't quite treated yet. But they're very optimistic. At least the Whitaker people are very optimistic. The DTSC, the state, is not quite as optimistic until they see all the reports. So that's it. Yeah, Doug?
Douglas Frazier. The wells that got shut down because of contamination, are they permanently shut down, or are they going to be cleaned up and then eventually used?
Well, 201 is, they're trying to get that back online. Their production levels, being the wells that they are cleaning, that they treat, Saugus 1 and 2, are not producing as much as they used to because of the treatment. So they've lost a lot of capacity in water. Valencia 201 is pumping now, but they haven't put it online yet because they still haven't got it down to where they need to for the treatment. They're still just trying to get it up. Saugus 205, which is over by the bus transfer station, is permanently shut down for now. They're not even using that to report anything. It's shut down. They're hoping to put 2 wells over by Magic Mountain, farther away from the plume. They want to drill 2 new wells on the west side of the freeway to add to the capacity and hopefully not draw the plume any farther that way. We'll see. Hopefully, if they can get if the barrier wells on the property that's feeding the treatment plant work, that they can contain it on the property, that the plume will start to shrink. But it'll take a good 30 years before that's done, at least 30. So our grandkids will get to deal with this also, and maybe our great-grandkids. But anything else? All right, super. Thank you.